The heavenly perfect sounds of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart will be ringing throughout Symphony Hall on March 5th when we present a concert which features classical music. Not all classical music, some music inspired by the classical era. A little bit of history. The classical era, 1750 to 1800, and sort of the reigning king of the classical era, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. That's his 40th symphony. What he gives us here is an incredible example of how to make a piece of music out of two notes. These two simple notes. No big deal. But in Mozart's hands, he knows just the right thing to do with those notes, the right harmony to put with them, the amount of repetition, and then after those two notes, what to do next. Like this. Again. Again. And then he goes up. Then he takes that same rhythm and comes down. It always sounds so simple when you describe Mozart, like, well, I could have done that. Well, no, you couldn't, and neither could I. Only Mozart. The second movement of this symphony takes us into an incredibly heavenly, beautiful world, again, with the absolute simplest of means. Listen to the opening of this. It might become chopsticks any moment. But if I add just the one or two other notes that Mozart actually put on the page. A little slice of heaven here on earth and in Symphony Hall. Now, a composer who got his inspiration, if you will, from the classical era, and very specifically Mozart himself for his very first symphony, is the Russian composer Sergei Prokofiev. And his first symphony is nicknamed the Classical Symphony. And there are many passages I could show you to give you an example of Prokofiev's wonderful wit and sense of humor, but it's the third movement, the Gavotte, that really gives us that sense of, well, this guy is just playing with us. Have a listen to this. I could take you through each bar of that and show you, oh, wow, he turned it and he twisted it this way, and isn't that cool and fun? But at the end is the most striking example of that. You hear this last phrase. Okay, now we've heard so much music since the time Prokofiev wrote that, we don't even necessarily hear it as the joke that it really is. The way it should really go is something like this. But listen now that you've heard the normal way to Prokofiev's way, instead of sort of a really jab. He throws you off in a completely different direction, a little bit of a detour. Prokofiev's Classical Symphony and Mozart Symphony No. 40, our two classical works in the program, sort of bookend our special guest artist. And he's very special indeed, and that's because he comes right here from our own Pioneer Valley. Longmeadow native Adam Luftman, currently the principal trumpet with the San Francisco Opera Company, will be joining us to play the Gregson Trumpet Concerto. Now, this work has just been recently written. So, all of this great classical music from the actual classical era with Mozart, the 20th century with Prokofiev, and the 21st century, our new classical music, all coming together on March 5th with Mozart and Prokofiev.